Lola, a girl who sees herself as less than ordinary, almost devoid of beauty. She describes herself with merciless cruelty, a broad forehead, big nose, a protruding jaw, pale, scarred, and even skin she cannot stand, decaying teeth, large ears, an imbalanced body, and coarse, lifeless hair, short in height. Nothing she wears ever suits her, no matter how hard she tries, and a failure academically, emotionally, and socially. That is how she sees herself. This is how she speaks to her reflection every single day. And it only gets worse whenever she sees a girl who embodies society's standards of beauty. In those moments, she feels like she is fading away, like she wants to disappear, like time should just pass quickly so she doesn't have to stay there. After every encounter, she returns to the mirror, staring deeply at a face she can no longer stand, a face that to her represents every flaw she feels inside. With every comparison, a fire ignites in her chest, a silence ache grows, and an inner voice whispers relentlessly, why? Why are they beautiful and I'm not? Would it have been too much to give me just one beautiful feature? Her suffering grows heavier day after day, as if she's walking down a road with no end. Until one day, Lola meets a new girl, someone breathtaking inside and out. At first, everything seems normal, but little by little, Lola started noticing the difference in people's looks, in the way they treat them, in the attention her friend receives, attention she never gets. A huge gap, enough to make you hate yourself. Comparisons, mockery, harsh criticism, all directed at her simply because she is the friend of a beautiful, elegant girl. Even though she truly loved her friend, she couldn't take it anymore. Jealousy crept into her heart, then envy. She began to avoid her, to distance herself despite how dear she was to her. But the most important reason wasn't abuse. Lola was afraid, afraid of losing control over her feelings, of hurting herself or hurting someone she loves. She understood that envy is a fire, and that its consequences are never harmless. And here we can say that Lola was aware enough, wise enough to step back before falling. She chose isolation. She walked away to protect herself and those around her. But now the question is, what can isolation do to someone carrying all this pain inside? It was a bold step, one that carried within it the spark of a new beginning. In a quiet place, Lola sat on her chair, a table before her holding a sheet of paper and pen, and in front of her a mirror, reflecting something deeper than her features. She stared at herself for a long time, then asked, why do I see myself as ugly? Why was I created this way? How did I even become convinced of this idea? Where is the flaw? And what are these conflicting emotions raging inside me? So many questions, one after another. She began writing them down, every thought that crossed her mind, until the page was filled with the weight of everything inside her. Then she didn't stop at writing. She went deeper into that silent place within her she had never dared to face. She began searching for answers, not in people's eyes, but within herself. And with every every answer she untied a knot, freed a thought, and let go of an old harsh judgment until all the knots were undone. And in that moment, her face did not change, but the way she saw it did, and she became free. Free from the prison of society's gaze, free from the cage of ignorance, and from darkness she had created herself without even realizing it. Question may be many, but the answer at its core is one. Lola realized she had grown up in a mentally distorted environment, a society that had planted narrow, selfish, and harsh ideas in her mind from a young age. She grew up absorbing them, and consciously then added even more cruelty of her own, until she left herself no space to think, question, or reflect. And then she realized there was nothing wrong with her. The flaw was never in her, but in the lens she had been taught to see herself through. A lens shaped by rich beliefs we inherit, but rarely question. She understood that her future were not flawed, just another form of beauty, a different version, nothing more. But she also faced an important truth. She had been neglecting herself, neglecting her life, and so her natural beauty had faded, dimmed under the weight of sadness and self rejection. Yet she realized she could change that. She could. She could take care of herself, rebuild her presence, work on the things that made her feel insecure, not out of hate, but out of love. And she understood that her tears were precious, too precious to be wasted again on thoughts that didn't deserve them. From that moment, real transformation began. She stopped seeking validation in others' eyes and started building it within herself. She no longer compared herself to others, but to who she was yesterday. She learned that beauty is not one standard, not a fixed mold imposed on everyone, but a harmony between the inner and the outer. A confidence that reflected before it's even seen. And with time, it wasn't just Lola who changed. Her entire view of life changed. She began to see clearly that true worth is not given but bought, and that when a person makes peace with themselves, they silence every voice that once weakened them. She was no longer the girl who avoided the mirror, but someone who stood before it with strength, not to search for flaws, but to rediscover herself. Her main focus became this to become beautiful inside and out. She chased her own growth with passion, longer for the version of herself she envisioned. She no longer compared herself to anyone else, only between the Lola of yesterday and the Lola of today. She learned how to live within society, to understand its ideas without being controlled by them. She rebelled, but with awareness, not blindly, but within wisdom and this discernment. And here I ask you, you, the viewer, who gave anyone the right to define beauty and confine it into a single mold and label everything outside it ugly?